Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set.
Well, hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Kisma, and today's episode is once again very special because we've got an amazing guest on. As our listeners know, we don't always have a guest, and when we do, it's going to be quite amazing. So before we bring her on, Nick, I want to check in with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. How's your week been?
But the week has been good. It's been a little honoring some time for self in through that and trying to not slip into my non-existence, which is going into a little bit of an overload right now because tomorrow I'm heading up to Huntington Beach to do the booth at this yoga festival. Oh. And there's like people everywhere. And I'm like, I like people. I really love people. And that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of shy, but I'm speaking, and that's exciting for me because I don't really speak that often.
Oh, that's good. I didn't know you were speaking.
I'm speaking.
Good for you.
Yeah. So
all for energy mastery.
Yes. Yeah, and energetic solutions.
Okay.
So not to confuse everybody, but mainly we're there for energy mastery. We're going to be doing healings for people and all kinds of stuff.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. How about you?
Yeah, it's been a big week with a lot of clients and heading to New York on Monday. We're starting our season of kind of bi-coastal, which will be fun. I know.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Exciting. And
I know.
Not really sure how it's all going to go, like
it's going to be great.
Okay. I'm just going to assume it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be great. We'll manifest exactly. So, let's bring on everyone. We have such an amazing human. Andrea Huspeni is from entrepreneur.com, and she has an amazing business called This Dog's Life. And I met her I think it's been several months. I heard her speak from Chris Winfield's events, and I've been watching her. And anyways, Andrea, I just want to bring you on because I'm so excited to have some conversations with you. So welcome to Illumination Podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be part of this podcast.
Thank you. And you're coming to us from New York City, right?
Yes. And it's so weird. Right now, I just keep listening outside and it's like going to be a massive thunderstorm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I just keep listening to it and I'm like waiting for the big clap. I'm a little bit.
It'll come at the right moment.
But yes, I am from New York and we definitely need the rain because it's been so hot here.
Yeah, for sure. And so you've been in New York City and with entrepreneur.com for how long?
So I've been in New York City for about 7 years. My undergrad is in marketing and I worked, this will have some relevance to the entrepreneur part, but I had, undergrad was in marketing and I did marketing for a while at Haagen-Dazs and I always wanted to go into PR. And so to make that switch, I thought I had to go to grad school, which, hindsight probably did not. So I went to grad school at NYU. And then pretty much right out of grad school, I started working at Entrepreneur. It's been actually, it sounds so cheesy, but Entrepreneur was like one of my I always have wanted to work there because I love entrepreneurs. I'm like obsessed with entrepreneurs and stuff. Like literally obsessed. Like I get so excited talking to people that are like just trying to do something on their own and not like really following the rules. It's been a great fit for me.
Well, entrepreneurs are lucky to have someone like you that can see that in them, right? Because I think for those listening, we have a lot of entrepreneurs that are in our listener base, and we know what it's like when you tell your family, it's like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start doing this thing. And everyone just is like, what's going on? What are you doing? Stop. But it's like such a heartfelt notion in essence. It's just impossible for people to not do that when they have that DNA in them.
No, and I agree. And I think like people do it out of like protection. Cause I catch myself doing that sometimes too, where people are like, oh, I want to start this and this. And I've heard, these mistakes that are made, or, these companies or whatever that have gone under. And so you start trying to be like, are you sure? Poke holes. And then it's like, okay to be able to do that. But I think it's more important to be supportive of people that are doing that.
Yeah.
And I do think that to be an entrepreneur, there is something special in your DNA. At entrepreneur.com, the topic always comes up often, can you teach someone to be an entrepreneur? There's classes and there's schools, and I don't know if you necessarily can. I think you could teach entrepreneurship in the respect of how to do a business plan and how to do your marketing strategy and how to do, productivity, or not productivity, but your supply chain and all that stuff. But to be an entrepreneur, I just feel like it has to be in your DNA, or, a little bit more in your soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That brings up one of the questions I wanted to ask is, do they have trouble with staffing at Entrepreneur? Because they always say never hire an entrepreneur for your company, but to have people in the company that actually understand entrepreneurship, is there any kind of a conflict there, or how does that go?
I am actually very fortunate to be a part of Entrepreneur. In the sense, I do have my site, This Dog's Life, and about, I want to say 2 years ago, I came to them and I was like, I'm going to quit my job. And I told them that. And they convinced me to stay, and they were very, very supportive of it. I think it's a fear that a lot of people that have side hustles face, in the sense that they're so scared to tell their job that they have the side hustle. They're scared that people will think it interferes with their 9-to-5 job or whatnot. But Entrepreneur was very supportive of it, and I'm very appreciative of it. And to your point, Nick, I wonder if they do think not to hire entrepreneurs, but
I've definitely heard that. Oh yeah. People have told me that, never hire an entrepreneur,
but not entrepreneur.com specifically.
Yeah, you're kind of always itching. And I think I was just thinking about our company. We do have some people. Sorry, my dog is
appropriate.
That's so awesome.
I love stop it. We do have some people that do have some side things going on, and they're very transparent about it. The media world in general there's not, you don't stay at a company forever. 5 years for me is a lot. It tends to be 2 years. So I think that realization of people maybe coming and leaving is, kind of, it will happen regardless. But that said, Entrepreneur, we've kept a lot of people at the company. And for me, I think it's kind of an asset that I have that entrepreneurial mindset, because, on my side business, you have to be scrappy and you have to think about all sorts of different things and all sorts of different solutions. And so you can kind of bring that mindset to a corporate world where, people are concerned about budgets or costs, or, not thinking about the scrappiness that, you can get a lot achieved with not having a huge budget. So I do think it kind of also benefits to hire an entrepreneur.
I love that. And what I'm beginning to see, especially at a place like Entrepreneur, that when people do have their side business, their side hustle, it gives it fuels their life. And so when they're in the job, they just have a better energy. They're just happier.
No, I definitely,
and that serves everybody.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think, some of the people, at work have asked about that, have asked about the work-life balance. And one of the things that I think is sometimes any job you have can be frustrating because you're not in control with every decision. You don't agree with every decision, or you just kind of have a stressful day. But to be able to go home and have something that's completely yours, I think it kind of helps you decompress and go to work with a fresh start, and not let things sit inside you. So exactly. I do think it actually helps to have a side project or a side business that is your own.
So we're going to get to your side business, your love, in a second. I did want to talk about some of your stories and your focus at Entrepreneur. I know that you've got a series around women entrepreneurs. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Sure. That's one of the things that I'm so proud of with Entrepreneur in the last year. particular is that we launched Women Entrepreneur, and it's kind of like a sub site within entrepreneur.com. So it has a little bit different feel, but it lives under the entrepreneur umbrella. But basically, Women Entrepreneur is obviously to support women entrepreneurs and founders and leaders through all walks of life and through whatever stage they're at. But we wanted to do it not just through content. So Women Entrepreneur is different than like Entrepreneur or even other women's sites that we have seen in terms of like it's divided into 4 pillars. So there is content, and the content really focuses specifically on women and how to kind of like overcome some of the obstacles that we face in life and in business, and provide actionable advice. But then we also have, where we have like big name people talk about their worst moment and how they overcame it. Because I feel like everything gets so glossed over where it's like, you can find success.
Totally.
I found success after, 2 days and I'm $1 billion company. And we didn't want to do that. So we wanted to talk about, when people that we may define as successful or view as successful, that they also went through everything that our audience is going through. So I really like that content component. And then we are doing a mentor session that I'm part of where we bring on mentors and people can like book sessions with us for 30 minutes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So for 30 minutes to an hour and, ask all sorts of questions. And so my area of expertise is like how to pitch publications, how to perfect the perfect, email to, build up those relationships with reporters, how to write articles and that like will resonate with readers. So that's my area of expertise. But then we also have, someone that's good at funding. We have another person that, she owns her own branding agency and she's worked with Fortune 500 companies and she's giving her time. And then we're going to roll out like the second wave. And I'm really excited about that. And we have like lawyers and,
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like all these women, I mean, there are some men too. We're not opposed to having men for the mentors, but all these women and men that are, wanting to help other people has been really, really exciting. So we have the mentor session and then we have some offline events that we'll be rolling out, and we have courses that we want to do for women. So it's more of it's more of a platform, and it's more of like this idea of building a community and a network, and having a resource and a place for a woman to go to kind of get, for all her needs and to get all her questions answered.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at the
recent video of Lauren, and Dylan's Candy Bar. Oh my gosh. Because I think when she just opened, I took my daughter years and years ago and we were just going crazy over it. So we would have been like really young then. And it's such a fun place. And it seems like she just has that energy, fun, passionate, yet so focused and so successful. Yeah. And that was a really fun video to watch.
Yeah, that's like actually, it's interesting because that's one of my favorite series. The series is called A Day in the Life, and it's where we follow our women entrepreneurs and founders share what a day in their life is. And it's interesting because we're trying to do it like a vlog, like vloggers do daily vlogs. And so we're, it's a little bit more raw. Not, there's like, it's not like super polished. It's like them actually showing the day in the life, but it happens to be probably my favorite series we do because we can follow and be like, this is actually what goes on in someone's day. It's not, all sexy and like, big time events and getting awards. It's like really grinding it out. And to have someone like her, and she's Ralph Lauren's daughter, show what it is actually like to run her company is pretty amazing. We also had Brooklyn Decker, and we've had a couple other great people on it. So that's been a very fun series for me.
Where did your passion start for entrepreneurship? Is that something that was always been with you since childhood, or was it more?
I think it has always been with me. I remember like my first thing I wanted to do when I was like in first grade was write a book about dreams. And I didn't know about copyright at that time. So I would like start copying like verbatim people's words and pictures from other books to think that I could make my own book with it. And it would get published. So I've always been like that. I don't know if it's because I get bored easily or I just kind of like doing my own thing. I've always had that in me. And so I've done that. I did try to start a site when I was, I've started a couple of things, but I wanted to start a thing called, I've always had a thing for dogs, like love dogs and animals. It's going to be called the Pet Watchers. And it was a platform. I don't know, Animal Channel a long time ago had this show called Animal Cops or Pet Cops or something where they would go and like save these dogs from like dog fighting rings or like being, malnourished or neglected. And then, they rehabilitate the dogs and then adopt them out. And that was kind of the story. And they follow these people, like the animal cops in Detroit and like, I don't know, New York City was the big one. But I wanted to create like kind of a website where if people are living in the middle of nowhere, they can report animal abuse and they can start like a chat about it. And so the more information they get, they can bring it to the police. But I remember I gave that to someone that was like in the world of animal welfare. And she just said, that's not a good idea, or that will never work. And gave me all the reasons why it wouldn't work. And, so after that, I never gave it a try. And I think I wrote like a 70-page business plan for it. And I wish I would have learned back then that you're going to have a lot of naysayers. I mean, I was younger. Right. I was much younger. A lot of naysayers are going to say no right away. And a couple of my ideas right away people said no. And I took them for their word. I was like more ashamed that I came up with ideas like that. I thought this was a great idea and I was kind of embarrassed. And then now I think about it and I'm like, there's going to be a lot of no's.
Did you ever wonder what our world would be like if those naysayers weren't around? If there was nobody there to squash those ideas? Can you imagine like how many amazing ideas that we would have that just somewhere just never made it through that first hurdle,
It's interesting because there is a difference between like naysayers and like people that are, I don't want to say the people that poke holes, but the people that ask questions that you should be asking. Cause I tend to have like brainstorming sessions with people and we don't want to be like, negative Nelly, but we do want to say, hey, have you been thinking about these challenges? So I do think that there is a role for people like that. But for the people that just say no, I wonder how many great ideas have been out there, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they're very close to their business idea, or they're very close to their, did you guys hear that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
In right time.
That one's staying on.
They're very close to their business idea, or they're very close to their just business if they launched it. And so, when they get that naysayer, they take it very personally. And, you just have to start having like a thicker skin for it, because you're just going to have a lot of people that say it's not a good idea.
Exactly. And is that something that you bring into the mentorship at Entrepreneur, where you're actually helping people to understand? I mean, both Nick and I have backgrounds as musicians, so we had to have tough skin, because there was so much feedback, so much like just from our teachers. So it's sort of like taking the feedback, knowing what is valuable and what isn't. I think it almost needs to be taught in a way or reframed.
And I agree. And I wish like someone told me the statistic that I always now think of. They say 90% of what you will receive is just BS, like ignore it. 5%, think about it. Yeah. And 5% is life-changing. And so that's how I always approach things, is I'll think, if I know that statistic going into a conversation, it's easier for me to be like, okay, well, maybe this person falls into that 90%, group. And I just kind of shake my head and smile. I do think that, if it was taught, or people knew that was like kind of like how it is with anyone. And that's like another interesting thing is like at Entrepreneur, I'll read some of these stories and of people like really like, I read something and I don't have the number off, like Catherine, she runs the Muse, And she said, she's like, I got rejected from investors like 400 times. 400. That's way beyond that 90% range.
Yeah.
But,
It is way
she got
beyond.
rejected.
Wow.
And then there was like the guy from Dropbox got rejected a lot. There's just been like so many people that have actually gotten that you'd be surprised now based on their valuation or how big their company is, how many times they get rejected. And so it's just something that you have to keep in mind that happens to everyone.
Right. And that decision and that choice to just pedal to the metal and keep going forward if one really believes in it. I mean, it's true. The human spirit is just so strong when it's got that ideal and that passion. So, which brings me to tell us about This Dog's Life. How was that born? It sounds like you kept it on the DL for a while and then it finally burst out. So share a little bit because we just love the site and we'll make sure our listeners can find it.
So This Dog's Life, it's right now, it's always evolving and I'm still in that evolving state. But how I started it was I moved from Minnesota to New York City with my 2 dogs. And I really wanted to know, like, the city was massive compared to where I lived. And I really wanted to know, like, where I could take my dogs, what places were dog friendly, what were the great vets, what were the great things you could do with your dog with other dog lovers. And so I had started This Dog's Life as kind of more of a thrillist for dog lovers focused on the New York City area. And I expanded it to San Francisco and LA. Just like this little city guide for dog lovers. And then, a lot of the audience I had noticed was more of like, they were all over the country. And so it has evolved to being like a little bit more general advice, like general dog news that's happening in the world. If it's like the recalls, which a big thing has, or like, just controversial topics, like a big thing has been this like grain-free diet changed by the FDA or warning by the FDA to, our ratings of like the best dog beds to advice about like training your dog. So it's kind of more evolved to that. And then, I just decided after making a couple of mistakes that we can definitely talk about, but I decided that the way is not to always just go content. And so I developed a product called Bye Bye Dog Breath to bring in the e-commerce component. I've always wanted to have a content plus commerce store. I just rolled out e-commerce sooner than I had anticipated. So the Bye Bye Dog Breath is a product that you can use with your dog, and it's like dog dental sticks along with powder that you can put on your dog's food to help with dog breath. And it doesn't just like help with dog breath in terms of like giving your dog kisses. It helps like actually like dog breath is dog breath is like a huge sign of dental disease, which is the number one issue in dogs. And I don't think enough people know that your dog should really have a clean mouth, and people brush their dog's teeth, but not everyone, not every dog loves it. And so this is like something to complement that. And it really,
and we can vouch for it. Leonard, our Boston Terrier, gets a dose of it every day.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, like, good ingredients, it's been proven to work. I worked with a vet with it. I worked with a company with it. So, it definitely freshens breath. It helps with plaque, which is super, super important. And it helps support healthy gums. And so I really wanted to focus when I do products on like an actual functional thing versus, like a new cute red collar. So I launched that, and then I've just incorporated that with like a little summer pop-up shop featuring other brands that we love at This Dog's Life.
Tell us, there's this other thing on there called the Woofy Selfie Helper.
I know. It's so cute. It's so funny. Actually, I used it. I did an ad with it with one of my dogs, Lola, and she, I have a husky mix and a pit bull mix. Yeah. And she was in it, and it actually worked really well because she absolutely hates pictures of her. Like, she's just like, every time we bring out the camera, she just will look away. She just does not like pictures. And you just put this little woofy thing on your phone, and then you attach a treat to it and you get the dogs.
I know.
What?
It's the best.
I know.
It's the best.
You get your little dog to like focus and it really works. So I tried to do it in the selfie mode. It didn't work as well. But if you do it where you're snapping the picture with a shyer dog, it works very well.
Well, Leonard's not even that shy, but when he's around the camera though, he'll kind of like avoid it. It's like he knows.
I don't understand why that happens. Like, I don't know if it's like initially when we did cameras, if it's the clicking or the flash, and now they associate the pictures with that or the phone with that. But yeah, she just does not like she doesn't like run, but she's just an awful picture taker, photo taker.
What is your vision for this dog's life moving forward? Like, you've got some great blogs on there. Some of them are really like tug at the heart. And I can really feel like the whole mission and purpose, but where do you see this going? Where do you want it to go?
And
Andrea?
I think like that's what I was saying. Like, I'm always experimenting with this dog's life. And it's like, I'm still trying to find the brand, and I think like, that's okay. Like, I'm still experimenting with it a ton, but I won't always want to focus on helping dogs live a happier and healthier life. But, in what direction I take that, I'm not sure. Do I just focus on all health products? I love the dental products. I love the CBD oil. We have that on the site too. And I give my older dog that, and I really see an improvement there. And then have all stories more catered towards that area. Or, is it like having your dog live a happier and healthier and like fun life next to you, and have it be, more of the woofy kind of products. So that was like one reason I did the summer pop-up, is to kind of figure out what resonates with my audience. What do people want to see? And that's like where I am right now, is kind of still figuring that out. Dogs are so important to me. And I think that they're also just becoming more important to people. People have seen, there's been like an increase in the number of dog owners in the past couple of years. The millennials just outpaced, I believe, the baby boomers in terms of dog owners. Yeah. And I'm thinking it's because the millennial generation is holding off a little bit longer on having kids and getting married. And so they start out having a dog first. And so just kind of, trying to see what resonates with my audience is where I am at right now, which is super exciting.
Oh, I know in New York City, when I'm there, our place is up near Columbia University, and I'll go to Riverside Park every morning, and people love their dogs. It is like everyone's out having their coffee and their dogs are playing really nicely. Like, no one's fighting, and it's just the coolest thing. I love it. So for you to be in New York City with two dogs, what's it like?
I came to New York City with my Chihuahua and my husky mix. Bentley was my Chihuahua. And if you ever see pictures with me now, I wear like a chain with a V on it. And he passed away not this last April, but the April before. So it's been about a year and a couple months. And he was just like my soul dog. And he was just everything. He's just everything to me. And so obviously we made the decision after him to get a pit bull mix, because that makes perfect sense. But I've written so much about pit bulls and like the bad reputation they get, and all that stuff, that I really wanted to get a pit bull. And I definitely got a great one, but I'm the one that wanted him, and he adores my boyfriend 10 times over me. I like him helicopter mom all the time. I like try to give him kisses and like squeeze him, and he just is like, "Will you stop, mom?" And my boyfriend just ignores him, and he just adores him. But
of course.
It's like an interesting thing I like research, or I think about. But it's good having them. I think New York City is a very dog friendly place, actually, in terms of like cities. We live in Brooklyn, so we can go to the dog park. We go to one of our favorite restaurants in our neighborhood, lets everyone sit outside with their dogs. And so it's a great, it's a great thing. And also like dogs just open you up to like meeting other people. Like I feel like I've met so many people just based on my dog, just based on people wanting to pet them, talk about them, have their dog meet our dogs. It's like so many times you walk down the street and that's like how you engage in the conversation. It's like a little bit of a conversation breaker. I don't necessarily think that's just for New York City. I think that's all around. Like dogs are some way to kind of get that social interaction going. So it's good. I love it. I did just go up to the Catskills this last weekend, and which is like
nice.
Definitely different than New York City. It's more country, and my dogs loved it. So they had like a little bit of post-vacation blues after we came back.
Yeah, speaking of that, I remember it was a really surreal experience. We had a dog walker in Ocean Beach when we lived down in Point Loma, which is right down by the city. And she would take the dog to the park, and he would run around and do his Leonard thing, and so I took him one time, and it was really surreal for me because there was a whole bunch of people there that knew my dog. And I'm like, who are you people? Like, I don't know any of you. Like, my dog has his whole life outside of me now, and I didn't even know anything about it.
That's so great. I love that. I remember that. And then we went to the park once. There was a Boston Terrier meetup. That was hilarious.
Oh, that was the best.
Yeah, it was the absolute best. I mean, we just, it's so good. And I think too, like when you mentioned the millennials and meeting people through dogs, when we have our animals, we've got to get our head out of our phone. It's like our dogs are not texting each other and we're not texting our dogs. And it's like, I think it's just this like, again, this quest to get back to connecting emotionally, whether it's with our pets or other people through our pets. So they're such like divine beings. And I know that they're here to bring us all together in a really cool way.
I think that's like one of the things I'm definitely trying to tap into with this dog's life. And like, that's where I'm like, oh, I don't, experimenting still is this fact that like there is stores that can fulfill, products based on needs, like, even like based on needs and like you need a harness or you need dog food or you need dog treats. But there is this like underlying thing where more and more people are, their identity is being extended to their dog a little bit. And it's like, how do you tap into that? And that's kind of like what I'm figuring out. It's like how to tap into that and how to tap into the fact that a lot of people want like a strong bond or relationship with their dog. And so it's like, how can you bring that and make that a little bit stronger? So those are just like,
wow. I think you're already doing it. thisdogslife.co. Everyone just check it out. It's such a cute place. The blogs and the shopping is really amazing. Andrea, before we go, I know I have just 2 questions. Nick might have something real quick, but any last minute advice for entrepreneurs?
I think it comes back to what I was saying earlier in terms of like, there are going to be so many roadblocks. There's going to be people as roadblocks, but there's also going to be situations that arise that are just going to be roadblocks. And remembering that like that happens with every single person. It's not just you. And you have to be willing to, you have to be willing to understand that that's going to happen, that those challenges are going to happen. And you have to be willing to make decisions based on it. And the decisions could be like, do you ignore it? Like that 90% I was talking about, or, do you pivot and, take what someone says or take what a situation that comes your way and say, maybe this came my way, kind of came my way for a reason, or maybe, something was telling me that this way was not working, and being willing to be flexible. I think like whatever your pathway is, I think when people say, I want to do this and I want, this is how I want it to look in, a year or 5 years. I think there's a lot of people that will fail is if the product they have right now is the product they think they're going to have in a year or 5 years. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, you have to be willing to understand that. I would say for every entrepreneur I've talked to, every founder I've talked to, the product that I'm reporting on or having an interview with them is 100% not the product that they started with.
And that's so awesome because you're demonstrating that as well. Like, I love the fact that you don't know exactly what this dog's life is going to be and figuring out the brand. And to me, that's what separates an entrepreneur from the rest, is that most people would not even start it if they didn't know And the entrepreneur is like, okay, well, let's start here, and something's going to happen, and let's see where it goes from there. And you spoke to that so beautifully about all the little tacks and weaves that you need to make in order to find your way through that. And it's really beautiful. Yeah. So I'm so excited to see what happens with this dog's life. I love it already, and I just can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's just something, it started out differently than it was. And I think it just always happens. You just got to be like, okay, let's try something. And experimenting is definitely okay. I think, when you kind of de-risk choices or de-risk, if that's the right word, de-risk decisions, in any way. So I would never make a complete pivot from this site. I would try and experiment with little changes to see if there's an impact there. And I think that's something that people can do without being like scared that, they're going to have to invest a ton more money in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
well, those are the people that I've seen spin out the most, is where they go all in on one thing, and then it's like, no, it's not working. And then they go all in on another thing, and they spin themselves out. And those are the people that really go through that. The people like you're describing who are like, okay, cool. Like, let's, even if it's kind of a big shift, like we're still going to that same kind of a place,
Yeah, that track.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. So I was talking to someone about, just developing the branding a little bit differently. And that's where my head's at right now, is like, just kind of, I've had this site for a couple of years, and when you're staring at your site forever, you're like, oh, maybe I'll tweak something or tweak the branding. And I was talking to a guy about that, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to hire a developer to kind of do the front end design. And, they'll provide mock-ups and, whatever, and I'll choose. And he was saying, even though that's like an expense for me, having someone go down that route, having the expense. And he's like, why don't you, because I have two different ideas that are a little bit different from each other on the direction of the look I want it to go. And he's like, why don't you instead just do a landing page, two different landing pages.
So good.
And have like people sign up for the newsletter and drive Facebook ads to them. Spend like $30.
Yeah.
Just getting your messaging down and seeing what resonates better. So it's just like figuring out, again, like being able to not have to take all those huge risks, go all in, but figuring out how you can test things in a smaller way to see if it works.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
Spend a ton of money. So I think that's like, you have to get in that mindset of like not going all in. Like, how can you go all in?
Little nuances.
But still prove your hypothesis.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm taking that one.
I'm excited to try it.
That's great. That's great. I ask a question to all our guests, and that is there anything that you want to do in life that you've not yet told anybody, or maybe just told one person, and you're willing to share it here?
I went to the Catskills this past weekend, and I think it's hard to have a 9-to-5 job and do like a side hustle, in the respect that like, I don't have that much free time to really enjoy vacations or really enjoy travel. And so like, I definitely want to do that more. And that's just like something that kind of clears my head a little bit more, clears my, your headspace, makes me more appreciative of things that I got, and just enjoying that experience of kind of escaping from, looking at your computer or your phone. So that's definitely something I want to do more of. And I think I'm getting to a place where I feel like I can, and not just like financially, but mentally. One of my friends always tells me to go on vacation, and I tell her it would be a waste of money because I'd be kind of just feeling so guilty about being away from not working. And so I've come to realize that if you can escape a little bit, it actually helps me with work because I feel a little bit more refreshed when I come back.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's space, right? There's space in the brain and the soul. Totally.
Well, and travel too. It's when you travel, you get a radically different perspective on the world. You know, even if it's just traveling within the country, you still see
the state.
Yeah, or the state. Like you see all these new sites and things, and the people are different. And
you just extract yourself. It's like a pattern interrupt, right? You get out and you come back. It's like, I can breathe.
Totally. Yeah. I did go to Peru this year. So that was like something too, that was great. But it just, for me, it's just one of those things that helps me like pause, you know, and if I'm forced to not look at my computer or not stare at my phone and like forced to get out, it just, and then I come back and I'm refreshed and I work quicker and I work a little bit faster than when I, face that burnout.
Right. I love it. Well, we are so excited for you. And listeners, please check out thisdogslife.co. There's so many great stories on there. There's so many cute products. Are we getting the selfie? The woofy selfie thing?
We're definitely getting that. And I'm just going to stalk the site just to look at the pictures because
I know they're so
great
cute.
Dogs.
They're so cute.
They're so awesome. I keep seeing this one flash by and it almost looks like these two shepherds are like a unidog. Yeah. They almost, every time I look at them, I'm like, oh, it's a Siamese twin dog.
So great. And Andrea, thank you for being here. I know you're so busy and we really appreciate your wisdom, your passion, and your happiness on the Illumination
Thanks,
podcast.
you guys. Thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate it.
For sure. And hopefully everyone's going to be checking out the site. And maybe I'll run into you in New York or one of our events. I would love to see you in person again. That would be really nice.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, for sure. And thanks, everyone. Please share this episode with someone that you know would love to check out all of the information on thisdogslife.co or more from Andrea Huspeni, entrepreneur.com. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.